Every week we bring you legal practitioners, and together we weigh in the stand of the law on societal matters. Last week we started a conversation and we had to continue the conversation today on the program, Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy. And with time on the program, we will also take a close look at the Senate, who just passed the national minimum wage bill into law. So these are the two conversations we will be looking at on the program today, and weighing the stand of the law in topics like this as it affects our everyday lives. Don't forget, you can join us on this conversation by calling the phone line that will be displayed on the screen shortly. And when you do, please try as much as you can to turn down the volume of your TV set. You on the Law is streaming live on our various social media platforms. Please do well to send us messages to ask our guest question on the program today. Joining us on the program today is Barrister Nasir Moshood. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Good.
Last week we started a conversation with Barrister Adetunji, and we kind of started the conversation on the Supreme Court's verdict on local government autonomy. But it was just right that we continued the conversation because we were unable to finish or arrive at a conclusion from the conversation. Now, this has been a topic for over 2 weeks. You know, some people think what the Supreme Court did was right and it's for the good of a local man, while other people felt like it's just something that will cause trouble in the sooner, closer future. So I want you to start by taking us through, again, what local government autonomy is like from the law perspective.
Yeah, thank you. As you've rightly mentioned, the decision of the Supreme Court has been on as a national discourse for quite some time, and to me it's a welcome development. The local government, as it were, it's an administration which is tailored towards the administration of local community, and it's a government, a third tier of government that is very close to the people at the grassroots level. So the establishment of local government is a creation of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically Section 7 of the Constitution. And as it were, although it is a very, let me say, so to say, strange addition to the federal system of government, unlike United States of America, where we copy the federal system of government from. The federal system of government of America only recognizes the government at the central and the regional states. Now, the Constitution of Nigeria also now adds that of local government to it, probably in consideration of our, peculiarity.
You're talking about the Constitution. What role did this Constitution play in the court's decision on local government autonomy?
Well, to describe it in a very straightforward manner, I would say Constitution is a ground norm. It is like our own Bible or Quran that guides our daily affairs, our legal system. The Constitution, provides for so many areas of our existence as a country. It also establishes the roles, the functions of each arm of government. So the Constitution is a superior law, as it were, of this country.
All right. We would like to also look at the Constitution in the aspect of the just passed bill by the Senate on new minimum wage. But just before we talk about that, this topic, Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy, is still lingering. People are still talking about it, And for a country like us, like you said, we have a unique nature.
Yes.
In Nigeria, we have over 774 local governments.
Yes.
Yeah, so in cases where the Supreme Court has given verdict on this, and then there seem to be challenges in the coming days, can the Constitution also be used as a reference to come into play in such situations?
Now, let me first of all start by saying that the Constitution, as it were, or any legislation whatsoever, is subject to the interpretation of judiciary.
Okay.
That is the courts.
The courts.
The role of the court is to interpret the several provisions of the Constitution and law. And as the Supreme Court in its wisdom has pronounced directly what the situation is, we are bound to follow it. Now, the Constitution is there. There are several provisions of the law. And that is why we have to give it to the Attorney General of Federation in person of Chief Lateef Fagbemi for taking it up, and even the political will of President Tinubu to seek the interpretation of the Constitution on the rationale behind the state governments holding on to the local government money allocation. And the court has said it, that henceforth the allocation to the local government should be paid directly to the local government. Now, the issue that may arise is whether it's going to take immediate effect. And what implication will it be for the states?
But since the Supreme Court has given its verdict through the interpretation of the judiciary, like you said, is it supposed to take longer than
yeah, it will not take longer. And even if you look at the interpretation by the 7 justices of the court that sat on the matter, majority decision even indicated and stipulated that the immediate effect or enforcement of that decision should be suspended till the amendment of the Constitution. There are some sections of the Constitution which amount to, empower the state government to pay the allocation, local government allocation from their own joint allocation account as provided for by the Section 8.
Has it not been there before now?
It has been there. It has been there. It has been there. The purport of that law, that section of the Constitution, is not for the local government to be deprived of their allocation. But, when people want to take advantage of something, they will just interpret the law the way they want it. And don't forget, the enforcement of the law lies on the hands of the executive. Are you getting me now? So in the intervention of the judiciary now is to the effect that rather than interpreting that section that created joint local allocation account of the state and the local government to the deprivation of local government of their statutory allocation, the judiciary now comes in to say that it should be interpreted in such a way that such allocation be paid directly rather than the state government to be holding on to it, which is to the disadvantage of the people.
So, like I initially started the conversation, in a case where there are states that are unable to meet up with this, because definitely there might be some states that will be unable to meet up with this division in the financial flow.
They will surely meet up. I have my reason, because executive power does not operate in vacuum. That's why we have states attorney general. Are you getting me? And that is their role, to advise the head of the executive, who is the governor, to do the right thing by following what the Supreme Court says. The decision of the Supreme Court is the law itself. Whatever Supreme Court says is binding. Are you getting me? That's why I know, and I know as a fact that our National Assembly has started the process of amending the Constitution. As I've said earlier, in majority decision of the court, because the Attorney General actually sought the relief for the immediate enforcement of direct payments, and the justices of the Supreme Court in their wisdom says that it must take effect when the Constitution is amended.
When we talk about this autonomy, some people feel it's actually a big deal, but conversations like this help to break this words down for people. How best could we explain the importance of this to a roadside mechanic, a pepper seller, the advantages of this autonomy it has to people at the grassroots like them?
As I've noted in my earlier statement, that the local government is the government that is very closer to the people at the grassroots. It therefore means that this direct statement and decision of the Supreme Court is to the effect that from now on, the fiscal aspects of local government's administration should be independent, free from the hands of the state government. And don't forget, it's not yet rural. There's also aspects that is political independence of the local government, which by our own action, because we are all stakeholders in this nascent democracy, individual professionals, civil society groups must also follow up by going to court regularly for the interpretation of other aspects of our laws. Because if we leave it as it were, the executive will still abuse their power. We need to go to the court to challenge any excesses, any violation of the constitution or any legislation whatsoever. So this will bring up, directive on how we can go about it. This democracy is borrowed, and we must practice it the way it should be practiced.
Okay, this democracy is borrowed.
Yes.
Very interesting. Let me quickly remind our viewers that you can join in on the conversation by calling the phone line that will be displayed shortly on the screen. When you call, please try as much as you can to turn down the volume of your TV set. We're discussing Supreme Court verdict on local government autonomy, and it's been a very great conversation on the program today. Now we move straight to the next topic, where we had in the few hours of yesterday, the Senate had a sit-in and the new bill on the minimum wage, which was from 30,000 to 70,000 naira. That's one of the latest developments and topic of conversation all over the country. And we want to look at the stand of the law in this topic, what the process is involved in passing a bill to law. One of the controversial thing about this particular bill is it didn't take long like every other bills will. Within the space of 2 to 3 minutes, like we saw, it passed through the readings. So let's talk about what happened yesterday, where the Senate sat and had this conversation.
Well, let me start by saying that we should not make mountains out of molehills.
Okay.
You see, the legislative power is inherent and lies in the hands of the legislature. Their own function is to make law, as stipulated by Section 5 of the Constitution. The procedure is well laid down by the law. They have their own standing rules, and the issues of this nature, that is of national importance, must be given urgent attention, and that was what must have taken place. So there's not much ado about that.
Oh, well, considering the figures, from 30,000 to 70,000,
yes.
And it's an increase, a large percent, more like twice the normal, the minimum wage we've experienced before now. So it's really a big deal for a lot of people, and that's why the conversation is not ending.
It is long overdue. Don't forget that the inflation in the country necessitated the demand of the workers. And as a matter of fact, I'm not a government worker, I'm a private person, but nevertheless, we must give it to them. The duration of their working experience has limitation. They cannot be working forever, and they must, as they are working, their condition and lives must be improved upon. So having said that, the procedure laid down by the law is duly followed. The national importance attached to this, and don't forget there have been series of warning strike here and there, industrial court intervention and all that. And if the legislatures don't act fast, it may collapse the whole facet of our economy. So, and their action at this stage, their step taken at this stage, is a welcome development to me.
So at this stage now, after the sitting yesterday, what's the next step constitutionally? What's supposed to happen next?
As I have said, the legislative power lies on the hands of the legislatures. When the bill of this nature is presented, it might be the executive bill, that is the bill that emanates from the executive arm of the government, or private bill that emanate from citizens of the country. So there is, as it were, there is a existing legislation on the minimum wage of workers. What the legislatures did is to amend that aspect of law that stipulated 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira. It's not like it's a fresh legislation on its own.
Oh, that's why I didn't take
it's
the
not,
long,
of course,
rigorous
yes.
process.
You see, because we are used to long years of making laws in this country, that's why we feel that it's just a normal thing.
Constitutionally, does it take years? Does it take
No,
that long?
the Constitution does not stipulate how all this in total. The Constitution is like a bedrock of other laws. There are other laws, are you getting me now, legislations that gives more life to the interpretation of the Constitution. The Constitution has stipulated that making laws is the function of the legislature. What the legislature has done in furtherance of that is to also make other laws that stipulate how the lawmaking is to be done through the presentation, drafting first, presentation.
Take it slowly there, because I know as this topic is all over the country, a lot of people still would not really understand all that it is to pass a bill into law. There are rigorous processes, and yes, those are the topics, those are the conversations we should be having for clearer understanding of this.
Before a bill, to summarize this, because of the time frame, the first stage is for the sponsor of the bill, whether it will emanate from the executive, and oftentimes fiscal bill, the bill that has to do with the budget, the expenditure of the government, usually emanates from the executive arm of the government, because they are the ones to enforce it. So when the bill is sponsored, there must be, it must pass through the rigorous drafting methods. Legal drafters, most especially the lawyers working in the legal drafting sections of the National Assembly or executive, will draft it, will make some consultations, then it will now be presented before the legislature as the first reading. The sponsors of the bill will present it, then they will make resolution if that bill will go to the second reading. The second reading is whereby the bill will be debated, the views of the legislature will be heard, and thereafter it will be adjourned to the committee sections, whereby they will invite all stakeholders to debate it. They will have sessions debating, trying to get the feedback from the stakeholders, and thereafter third reading. It is after this third reading that the resolution will be passed, at the end of the day, fourth reading, the final passage, and this bill will be sent to the president for the assent. That is that, and it becomes law if the president assents to the bill. And if the president fails to assent to the bill, the constitution stipulates that that means it vetoed it.
Can the president refuse?
Yes, it has happened before. It is the power of the
even
president.
when such bills emanated from the executive arm of government?
No, oftentimes when the bill emanates from the executive, it will surely, the president or governor, as the case may be, will surely assent to it. But in case where the bill emanates from other arm of government other than the judiciary don't present bill anyway. So if they emanate from the legislatures or private bills emanating from the public, at times the president in his wisdom might feel that no, I'm not going to allow this. And the law allows a situation where the legislatures can also, from their majority decisions, vote in favor of it, and it becomes the law. So the essence of that is not to check the excess or excesses, as it were, of the president or governor, so that the interest of government, the country, will be taken care of. The executive is headed by one person, and the legislative arms, encompasses representatives. Yes. Legislatures, senators, House of Rep members, or the rep members at the state level, representing different area of the country, and their majority decision should be binding, and the Constitution has made provision for that.
Well, that's interesting to know. This process is, I'm sure it's not as simple as you explained it.
It's not as simple, but for the purpose of sensitization, that's the summary. And as a matter of fact, every member of this, every citizen of this country also need to follow up. It's something that we need to know, because at the end of the day, don't forget, ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
Not an excuse.
The moment the bill is passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the executive head of government, it becomes the law, and it is binding on every citizen and as well enforceable.
Interesting. All right, we will gradually wrap up on the program. Time is rolling up our side. We are taking a close look at Senate passes National Minimum Wage Bill into law, and it's still a conversation that is talk of the town right now, and we're just, breaking it into pieces what it means to pass a bill into law. And just this one is one of the most important topic in our everyday lives for today. Now let's bring it back again now, talking about this bill. In a case where could there be back and forth even at this time that it's been passed into law?
Yes, because we are operating federal system of government. Although it is pseudo in nature, we are yet to fully implement what federal system of government should be. But be that as it may, the moment the National Assembly has passed the National Minimum Wage Bill into law, and what is left is for the President to assent to it, and this will take care of all federal workers. Don't forget, we have federation, states of federation. Each state of federation will also go back to negotiate with their own workers, and the moment they arrive at a particular consensus, then the same procedure will follow. It must be, legislated upon so that to become law and become binding.
Is there some form of enforcement from the law that backs this government in ensuring the implementation, effective implementation of
That's why we have courts. When there is a law on ground, any breach of the law, the next line of action, especially on the side of workers, is to approach industrial court to enforce it. Although in practice, and what we have been seeing so far, the worker is not proactive in doing this, and it is left to them.
All right, we have to go now. I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
It's been a great time discussing the topic, and I trust our viewers have been able to gather one or two things for themselves. The conversation on the Senate, on the Just Passed Bill into law is still on, and we will bring you more of this topic as it affects the law and our everyday lives. My name is Miriam Usman. I'll see you next week, where I bring you another guest and we explore these topics on the program. Until then, please be a law-abiding citizen. Bye for now.